Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome here to Loudon, New Hampshire, as we're getting set for the USA Today 301, our 22nd race of the debut season of the PCSRA Winston Cup Series. After today, we only have 4 more races left to go before we decide the 16 drivers that will duke it out in this season's chase for the championship. A Crenshaw starts on the pole position in the 2 machine, in that blue disc, we like to say. She is 7th in points, still looking for her first win on the season. Alongside of her is A Reynolds, who comes in this race 23rd in the points. We'll have to see what her gap is going to be between herself and 30th in the standings going into this race. B Tennyson, 3rd in the points, is looking very unlikely he's going to fall outside the top 30 in the points, as he is sitting in the top 10 of the points, 3rd in the standings, and 4th in the standings is ironically J Bouvier. So we have a scenario of 3rd and 4th in points, starting 3rd and 4th, believe it or not. So that's really interesting to say the least. As you look at the rest of the starting lineup, Annie Thomas did not have a good qualifying effort, and this is not good for a driver who's trying to get herself back in the top 30 in the points to have her win count for a spot into this season's chase for the championship. Time to get these cars rolling off. Let's see if everybody can roll off this time without any issues. Looks like that is indeed the case. So let's go over the top 10 in points presented by Golden Corral. J TwoTwo is the points leader by 9 points over Cody Smart, as everybody's not having issues, so that's good news there. 47 back is B Tennyson, who is 3rd in the standings. Josephine Bouvier, 52 back and 4th. Betty Johnson rounds out your top 5, 68 back. 81 back is Jessica Miller, 6th. Our pole sitter, A Crenshaw, she is 7th in points, as I said. 89 back of the lead. Monica Towns is 92 back in 8th. Ponzo Albanus is 93 back in 9th. And Jerry Harvick, 2-time winner this season, is inside the top 10. We only had 1 wreck in yesterday's Busch Series race. The rest of the race went clean and green. What will we see here today at Loudon for the Winston Cuppers? We're going to find out here today, as the USA Today 301 is green. Last week at the Glen, we had a couple of drivers fell outside the top 30 in points. Courtney Lynn, who was inside the top 30 in points, she's now 9 points back of 30th in the standings. Hannah Smith is only a measly 1 point back of 30th in the standings. And then, let's see, Zachary Taylor, 16 back of 30th in the standings. 18 back of 30th in the standings is Marty Stevens, who is a former winner this season. And then Annie Thomas, who is a whopping 52 points back of 30th in the standings. So those drivers are starting to run out of time to try to get back in the top 30 in the points to have their wins count for a spot into the playoffs. As the yellow is out for the first time today, Annie Crenshaw will be the leader back to the line. Let's see who caused this yellow. Ponzo Albanus involved. That's 9th in the points. A lot of damage to the Hooters Ford. Well, good thing he has a nice little cushion between himself and 30th in the standings. I believe he's the only one involved, because I don't see anybody else have any damage. So it looks like he's the only one involved. And it looks like we had a wreck on the back straightaway. We're going to have to find out what happened there, as the yellow is out for the first time today in the early stages of the USA 301. Let's go back and see what happens to Ponzo Albanus. We're looking at the helicopter view to find out what caused this first yellow, and it looks like the 42 got into the 45, and that's what got the 11 involved. Looks like A Horton got a piece of it, former winner this season, but she escapes with minor damage on her Valvoline Pontiac on the right side. And let's see, watch 17. Yep, gets into the 11. Jerry Harvick gets involved. Almost got Cody Smart. Brooklyn Carter gets Luke Knight. If I am correct, it was. Zachary Taylor, Cody Smart did a brilliant job missing that machine. And I thought Ponzo Albanus was the only driver involved. Well, now you can add Brad Lewis to the list of drivers involved. Brad Lewis, 36 in points. Ponzo Albanus on the flip side, top 10 in the points. But like I said, he had a big enough cushion between himself and 30th in the standings, so he can definitely ill afford a poor finish. So the caution's out for the first time today here at Loudon. Let's jump back to the restart here at the Magic Mile. About to go back to green flag racing on lap number 7 of 24. Should give us a total, or excuse me, a 30. Should give us a total of 25 laps of racing to go. Apologies there. A Crenshaw is the leader. B Tennyson second. Ashley Reynolds third. Tatum Wright fourth. J Bouvier fifth. Brenda Evelyn sixth. Brenda White seventh. Maddie Crenshaw eighth. Hannah Smith ninth. And Betty Johnson complete the top 10. Drivers out after that incident, and I've noticed Brad Lewis I knew was out of the race. We're told Annie Winters came to pit road under that caution. Not sure what the deal was. And we're also being told that the 6 of Riley Anderson has gone behind a wall, and Marty Stevens blew a camshaft under yellow. So we're going to have to document what happened to Riley Anderson, why she's out of the race. So that's 3 Roush Fenway racing cars. And here's the bad news for Marty Stevens. That's one of the drivers who need a good run to get back in the top 30 in the points. We're going to have to investigate what happened to Riley Anderson because I don't know why she's already back behind the wall and out of the race. And it looks like we're under caution for the second time today. We might investigate that coming up. But first, let's see what brought out this yellow. Ben Erickson, a former winner this season, and his teammate Luke Knight involved, the 2 World NOS racing drivers. So caution's out for the second time today. First, let's review why Riley Anderson's out of the race. Then we'll take a look at what happened to the Chip Ganassi boys. So I've just received word Riley Anderson had a mechanical issue, and I did look back at a replay. She did take her car back behind the wall, so she had a mechanical problem. So not sure what was wrong with that 6 car, but that's a tough break for her. But this is what happened. Watch Melissa Cooper runs in the back of Michael Anderson and just takes out the 2 Chip Ganassi cars of Ben Erickson and Luke Knight. So, yeah, I don't know why the 43 did that, but, it's a tough break for the 40 machine. And let's see, Luke Knight fell 3 spots down to 17th in points after a struggling race last week at the Glen. And Ben Erickson, this is not good. Ben Erickson's one of the drivers trying to stay in the top 30 in points. He was 28th in points, came in this race 4 points ahead of 30th in the standings, and this is not the result he was hoping for. Could Ben Erickson possibly fall outside the top 30 in points today? We're going to have to wait and see what happens. As the yellow's out for the second time today, let's jump to the restart here at Loudon. Getting ready to go back to green on lap 12 of 30. Should give us a total of 19 to go. Crenshaw still your leader. Tennyson, Ashley Reynolds, Tatum Wright, Josephine Bouvier, Brittany White, Brenda Eveling, Maddie Crenshaw, Hannah Smith, and now Betty Johnson has put herself into the top 10. I also saw our points leader, J TwoTwo, back there, and nobody out of the race. And as I talked about, Ben Erickson needed a good run to stay above 30th in the standings. I think he might drop outside the top 30 in points, and his win would not count for a spot, which is good news for drivers like Bouvier, Johnson, Miller, and Crenshaw, because Crenshaw came in this race 8 points below the cut line, and this could possibly put her into the playoffs. Unless she ends up winning, then that's not going to matter. And if Crenshaw wins, Annie Crenshaw wins, it's not going to matter because she's so far high enough in points, rather, if I can speak today, that even if she gets a win, she'll be high enough in points that she will not fall outside the top 30 in points the next 4 weeks. So that would be good for that Miller Lite deuce. Courtney Lynn's running in 13th. And I talked about Courtney Lynn came this race only 9 points back of 30th in the standings. This might put her back in the top 30 in the points as long as she can get some good results between now and then. Zachary Taylor in 27th. I think Taylor's going to be in a must-win situation. Annie Thomas running in 30th. And Kevin Joseph is going to be a lap down. Oh, he's got no hood. I wonder if he ran the back of somebody, as Kevin Joseph has no hood on the Grainger Ford. So I wonder if he ran in the back of somebody. Probably might have been involved in that first incident or something like that. And Whoa! Right in front of Annie Thomas. That was unsportsmanship right there, Kevin. There you go. Let's Annie Thomas by. I don't think Thomas will appreciate that. Jerry Harvick's back here at the rear of the field, and this is not where Zachary Taylor needs to be. Neither Cody Smart. Zachary Taylor, yes, because he does not need to be in 26. Cody Smart's second in points. The guy he's trying to run down for the points lead is running in 12. He's 12 spots ahead. That would be J TwoTwo. He is the points leader coming into today's race as we're at the midway point of today's race. As Ben Tennyson just overdrove the corner a little bit, trying to get around the Miller Lite Dodge. Ben Tennyson, another driver, if he gets Ben Tennyson's in the playoffs right now. As long as he stays in the top 30 in points, he's a former winner. Annie Thomas, on the other hand, has not been to victory lane this season. And she's trying to get her first win on the season. And plus, she is high enough in points that if she does win, she would be in the playoffs. Plus, she's so far high enough in points, she has a massive amount of cushion between herself and 30th in the standings. So even if she has a couple of poor finishes in the next couple of weeks, I don't think it's going to take A Crenshaw outside the top 30 in standings. So all she's trying to do is just find victory lane. That's all she's trying to do. Ashley Reynolds is running in third. Let's see what was her gap. And Brittany White, by the way, came in this race that critical 30th position in the points. Ashley Reynolds was, 431 minus 394? If I looked at that correctly, yep, I was looking at it correctly. Okay. She was 37 points ahead of 30th in the standings. Tough break for Riley Anderson. It's been a struggling season for her in that 6 team. Thought she was going to win Coca-Cola until a mechanical problem took her down to 30th. And it's been hard luck ever since for that machine. Annie Crenshaw having a very solid run as we're at 10 laps of racing to go. She's trying to do her best to hold off both Brittany White and Ben Tennyson, which is going to be hard for her, but, it's her task. And if that one starts battling the 0-1, it might just allow the blue disc to pull away. And it's looking like that's about to happen as Brittany White is underneath the U.S. Army Pontiac. Brittany White has yet to find victory lane. In fact, all 3 of the Dale Earnhardt Incorporated cars have not found victory lane, and they're running out of time to try to get a win and stay in the top 30 in the points. J TwoTwo in the top 10. Bouvier running in 7th. If Hannah Smith stays right where she's at, this will definitely put her back in the top 30 in the points. So we could have a couple of drivers back in the top 30 in the points table, like Courtney Lind and Hannah Smith. Annie Crenshaw just does not need to make a mistake because Brittany White is hounding the back of that 2 machine. And we're also being told Monica Towns is out of the race due to a camshaft failure. And she will join the 3 Roush Racing cars of Stevens, Lewis, and Anderson back behind the wall. And Kevin Joseph's a lap down. So with the exception of Josephine Bouvier, it has not been a good day for the Roush Fenway organizations as the 0-1 and the 1 continue to go side by side. That's going to allow the 2 to start pulling away. And Annie Crenshaw is going to start pulling away if these 2 continue to go side by side, because I think that's probably the only thing that's on the line. Or actually, let me correction. Vanco Siemens actually got into the top 30 in points. I'm sorry. I said Dale Earnhardt Incorporated did not find victory lane. They actually did with Vanco Siemens, and he came in this race in the top. He's 25th in the standings. And I believe he was 28 points. Let me look. Hold on. Yeah, I was right. He was 28 points ahead of 30th in the standings. I'm sorry. I forgot he went to victory lane last week. So Dale Earnhardt Incorporated's looking for their second win in a row. Apologies about that. This is what happens when my brain is not even focused today, and I'm not focused for whatever reason. The only thing Annie Crenshaw is just focusing on is just hitting her marks the next 4 laps. Soon to be 3 to go here. Ben Erickson's more than likely going to fall out of the top 30 in the points with a 32nd. Jerry Harvick came into this race 10th in points. He should be okay because he has a nice little cushion. I think he has a little over 100 points between himself and 30th in the standings. So a poor finish is not going to be bad news for that 18 bunch. As Annie Crenshaw is doing everything she can to hold off Ben Tennyson. Wonder if Ben Tennyson's already burnt up his tires trying to get around the 2 after his battle with the 1 of Brittany White. You think about Annie Crenshaw in the Truck Series, and there she goes, getting bumped up the racetrack. Here comes Ben Tennyson. I was going to get ready to say, Crenshaw, who has led this race, Ben Tennyson's going to take the white flag. But Crenshaw's fighting back. And she got a nice run on the high side. Can she clear the 0-1? Yes is the answer. I was going to say Annie Crenshaw had a great rookie as Brittany White powers around the outside of the 0-1. Whew. Annie Crenshaw had a good part-time season in trucks in the Coca-Cola Truck Series. She's going to get her first career Winston Cup win at Loudon. And she was 7th in points. This more than likely has put both Penske cars into this season's playoffs for the Winston Cup. And Annie Crenshaw led start to finish. This will no doubt keep her in the top 10 in the points after today. Mission accomplished. Now both Penske cars will battle for a championship. Brittany White will come away with second. Ben Tennyson third. Those two had a good battle. Brittany White was 30th in the standings, so a well-needed run for her. Ben Tennyson will get third, as I said. He also was top 10 in the points, so he will stay in the top 10. This might have just clinched him a playoff berth. Hannah Smith gets a 4th place result. She was only 1 point back of 30th in the standings. This will no doubtably put her in the top 30 in the points after today's race. Ashley Reynolds 5th. She will continue to build that cushion between herself and 30th in the standings. Maddie Crenshaw gets 6th, although she is probably very happy for her younger sister getting a spot in the playoffs. Maddie has had a tough season, but if there's one Crenshaw sister she wanted to see make the playoffs, it would be Annie Crenshaw, so that would be sweet. 27th in points for Maddie, but she'll be rooting for Annie Crenshaw in the playoffs. Tatum Wright will get 7th. Good run for Tatum. Came in this race 18th on the points. We'll see her sister next season in the Truck Series, which is Ashton Wright. J TwoTwo, the points leader, in 8th. He will no doubtably keep the points lead because the guy who was trying to run him down for the points lead, Cody Smart, finished in 25th. Ugh, not good. Courtney Lynn Well needed run, young lady. A ninth place. This will no doubtably put her back in the top 30 in the points, which is bad news for Bouvier and Jessica Miller, and also bad news for Bouvier because Crenshaw was below the cut line. Annie Crenshaw referring to, and with her win, I think Bouvier could be below the cut line or right near the cut line, believe it or not. And the tipster Timmy Turner completes the top 10. Good job to Turner in that result. Lane Aurora get 11th. Good run for her. Let's see here. Vanko Steven, 1 week removed from his first win of the year, 21st. We're going to have to see where this is going to situate. I don't think 22nd is going to cut it for Taylor, though. But we'll have to wait and see where this is going to situate him. Ashley Horton, 23rd. As you look on down to the rest of the finishing results, Todd Montgomery, 27th. Todd was 22nd in the points. I think he should be okay, but we'll have to see. I think Annie Thomas, 28th. I don't think that's going to cut it, and I don't think she's going to make the playoffs as far as that's concerned. Ben Erickson, 32nd. This will take him out of the top 30 in the points table. That's the other thing Bouvier was hoping for. Drivers who are inside the top 30 fall out, and Ben Erickson's one of those drivers. P Albanus, 34th. He was running 9th in points, so he and J Harvick could ill afford a poor finish. Annie Winters was the last car on the lead lap. Kevin Joseph was the only car that finished a lap down. And then 4 drivers did not see the checker flag. Monica Towns, Riley Anderson, Marty Stevens, and Brad Lewis. I think Marty Stevens is going to be in a must-win situation in these last 4 races of the regular season. But Annie Crenshaw led the entire race from start to finish. No doubtably is in the playoffs. Hannah Smith and Courtney Lynn might have just done their favors of getting back in the top 30. A lot of good. But thank you all for joining me for today's race here at the Loudon, New Hampshire. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the PCSRA crew today. We showed your full finish results. Your point standings are down in the description heading into next week's race at Richmond, which will be Busch and Winston Cup coming your way. Hope you'll tune in for that. Until then, I've been Dean Voles signing off. Goodbye from Loudon, as you've been watching yet another broadcast of PCSRA TV, where champions are made since 2010 and 15 years as the best in racing around the world since 2017. See you next week from Richmond.